FAST stands for Fast Access Storage Technology, which means we use true SATA-based storage technology to achieve blazingly fast disk speeds on RISC OS. Our technology uses Piccolo Systems ADFS as opposed to the less useful SCSI-based technology, meaning we can use multiple ports. Indeed, FAST allows up to 4 SATA ports on current hardware, more of a RISC OS limitation than a FAST issue. There's even the option for an external SATA port. Currently, our FAST systems are based on the Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4 and the exceptional performance that it offers. How very dare we? We believe that RISC OS Fast is possibly the fastest RISC OS computer system in the world. And independent benchmarks appear to corroborate this. It has the fastest disk access of any current RISC OS machine, with speeds of about RAM access. NVMe may not be any faster than our technology, or at least not much faster, because it is likely that FileCore is now the limiting factor. Our systems have the fastest RAM of any current RISC OS machine, and the fastest CPU for RISC OS, even when not overclocked to its full potential. There is a limit to how fast things can go. Other features of our fast systems that we feel set it apart from other RISC OS machines include the following. Huge screen resolutions are easy and work out of the box. There is no need to run side-by-side monitor connections. Fast systems are upgradable, just pop out the CM4 and replace it with a better one, just like in the RISC PC days. Graphics hardware acceleration is built in, as standard, assuming the software supports it. It has access to multiple, mature Linux variants, with in-depth online documentation and support, unlike some of the newer chipsets available. So how does it fare in the real world? As a demonstration of disk speed, FAST can compile a Raspberry Pi RISC OS ROM in 3.2 seconds. By writing the ROM directly to RAM, this reduces to 2.46 seconds, demonstrating how fast the CPU is. To the authors of RISCOSM, the map data can be converted in less than half the time that a similar priced IMX6 system would take. In order to make RISC-OS Fast work effectively, we had to remove the USB 3 drivers from the Pi ROM. This means we need to provide a custom ROM image, and there is currently no option to use the nightly builds with Fast. Although this is no different to other offerings in the market. A low availability of compute modules suitable for Fast, although we do have a good stock, and overall stock is improving in line with the Raspberry Pi Foundation's expectations. On a more positive note, Fast has many advantages over other systems, including the following. It offers easy compatibility and interchangeability with other Compute Module 4 boards, and is cheaper than other SATA-based RISC-OS systems. Given the provision of 2 HDMI ports, there is potential for dual screens in future, to make use of projectors, docks and other external displays. There are many Linux variants for the Pi, often well documented and supported. This is a distinct advantage over other chipsets, where Linux variants rely on a few developers or the manufacturer themselves. The availability of 8 GB of RAM is beginning to seep through to RISC-OS, but is already of use if you are running Linux. The official I/O boards are much cheaper than the proposed IDX boards mooted some years ago. This also gives us the future option to utilize the standard and ubiquitous wireless chipset, should a driver and software become available. We have made recent improvements and added new features to Fast. This demonstrates our commitment to the platform. We have added support for big disks of up to 2 TB in file core format, using a custom formatting tool, and a lot of maths. CDFS soft ATOP is now built into the ROM, allowing use of SATA optical drives. Big disks can now work alongside standard file core disks. Support for HATs is nearly working. Over-the-air firmware updates should be available imminently. In future, we hope to be able to develop Fast further. Some of our proposed developments include HAT-X, a support hat or board to allow easier and full use of ATX power supplies and PC cases. Getting the onboard real-time clock and fan control to work with RISC-OS. NVMe support. Improved support for eMMC storage on some compute modules. Porting Fast to other boards. See the multi-Pi Fast development work later in the presentation. A Fast mini system, basically the footprint of a 2.5-inch hard drive. Chimera is a mythological creature with the head of a goat and the head of a lion. Our Chimera has the ability to run RISC-OS and Linux in one system. It is a development on both eDOS and eCOS, which we will discuss later. Chimera utilizes technology to enable both systems to operate on one machine, but has the added advantage that it has 2 or 3 distinct fast solid-state storage devices, including fast eMMC for RISC-OS. Chimera has fast gigabit Ethernet support available and ready now. No need to wait for future developments or plug in a separate adapter. It works now, out of the box. One of the advantages of Chimera is its flexibility. It can be easily repurposed as a RISC-OS NAS, as a file server, a disk duplicator, or as a storage array. All from a RISC-OS base. ECOS stands for Easy Concurrent Operating System and is a means of running another operating system in a window within RISC-OS. In most cases, this alternative OS will be Linux. It can even run a single Linux application in a window, such as a browser or an Office package. It can run multiple Linux applications in their own windows at the same time. True concurrent operating systems. ECOS has dedicated hardware that is connected to the RISC-OS system using dedicated resources such as storage and RAM, and can run Raspberry Pi OS at very usable speeds. ECOS has an internal option to be built into fast systems, or an external one with fast data exchange between the two. Either way, ECOS has a very low power draw and can often be powered from a USB port. Multi-Pi Fast is a development of our native RISC-OS fast technology, but with the advantage that it can operate on multiple CPUs at the same time. Combining multiple processors, multiple OSes and fast technology suggests a burgeoning RISC-OS system with so many capabilities. Complexity of hardware, Multi-Pi Fast still fits in a simple IDX or ATX case, and operates in the same way a standard PC would. Each CPU can have its own dedicated RAM, storage, and speed capabilities, and we can even use technology that is usually unavailable to RISC-OS, such as the addition of unsupported chipsets. It even has its own 1 gigabit data bus to share resources between the CPUs. We aim to give all of our Raspberry Pi 4 systems the option of fast eMMC storage for RISC-OS to use. Our plan is to make all of our current systems upgradable in terms of RAM and CPU. We'll keep a watchful eye on development in the wider world and see what we can bring over to RISC-OS. Keep an eye on what we're doing at shows, talks, and events like this one. All of our Pi 4 systems are overclocked to get the best possible speed out of the system for RISC-OS use. All systems come with the option of 2, 4, or 8 GB of RAM and utilize the Pi's built-in fast gigabit Ethernet port for internet access and file sharing. We also equip our systems with EDOS firmware so that should you wish to be able to dual boot into Linux, this should be an easy upgrade. All of our systems come with a standard 2 GB of free software with optional bundles for productivity and games. We can even install software from other retailers prior to dispatching the system to you. We even offer remote support, where we can connect to your RISCOSbits system to diagnose and repair faults without returning your system to us. As long as you're connected to the internet, we can log into your machine. No messing with firewalls and router settings is required. Pi Harder is RISCOSbits' latest flagship system. Having retired our previous systems due to a lack of sheet material availability, we returned to a project we originally began developing back in 2020. The attractive and almost conventional-looking aluminum case allows very access to the microSD card slot and equips the machine with 2 front USB ports for use with pen drives, memory sticks, and card readers. With an illuminated on-off button, it's easy to control the power to the case, and special software allows for full shutdown of the system. The Pi hardware allows full access to the standard user ports on the Raspberry Pi, as well as converting the micro HDMI ports to full HDMI. Obviously, only one of those ports is still available to use under RISC-OS, but at least you won't have to buy a new cable. It also has a standard 3.5mm audio jack that is enabled through firmware. A simple change can be made to ensure audio comes through the jack, rather than over the standard HDMI. An internal SATA connector allows for connection of either a 2.5-inch SSD or an M.2 drive connected by USB to the main system, giving fast disk access and a wide choice of storage devices. It also hosts active cooling, in the form of the popular Ice Tower cooler coupled with a controllable fan. Utilizing custom software, the Pi hardware can control both the speed and temperature at which the kick. The Pyro Noir is RISCOsbits' new entry-level system based on USB or simple SD storage. Its sleek matte black molded plastic case has ample ventilation to keep the system cool and includes a powered fan. Just like the Pi hardware, Pyro Noir has two front USB ports for USB drives and card readers, and easy access to the micro SD card for quickly changing OS to either Linux or another variant of RISC-OS. An illuminated button offers full power control of the system. The Pyro Noir case enables easy access to the standard user ports on the Pi 4. An internal adapter converts the Pi 4's micro HDMI ports to full-sized ones on the case itself. And a dedicated audio jack allows sound to be played through external headphones and speakers instead of over the HDMI cable. The GPIO port on the Pi is brought out to the side of the case, and a sleek rubber cover protects the pins from damage and dirt. The internal active fan has temperature control on-off abilities, enabled by the custom software included. The Fortress is a compact case of only around 10 centimeters squared. Made from aluminium with precision pillars that reach down from the case to connect with the hottest parts of the board, this adds a cooling effect to the case overall. Indeed, if the case was flat on top, it would make an ideal cup warmer. GPIO ports are hidden under a sleek magnetic cover and are easily accessible on the top of the case. LED indicators indicate both power and disk activity. On the rear of the case, an on-off button allows full power control of the system via custom software. The Pi's standard ports are fully accessible on the rear of the case to make for easy connection of peripherals and networks. A special internal adapter converts the Pi's micro HDMI ports to standard full-sized ones. It also breaks out a 3.5mm audio jack, which can be enabled through a simple firmware adjustment. Inside the Fortress is a discrete M.2 drive of up to a standard 256 GB, which can be used in either FileCore or FAT32 format. If enabled with eDOS, then it can be partitioned for Linux use too, also allowing for larger drives. Software controllable fan inside the case adds to the overall cooling effect, allowing for safe overclocking of the system. Indeed, the system comes overclocked to 2.1 GHz as standard. The Pi Nano system is based on a custom layered case designed by RISCOsbits and can be made from a huge range of colors and materials, including acrylics and wooden veneers. By using frosted, translucent side panels, internal illuminations can show through the case for a variable glow effect. Space inside the case for add-ons such as hats and real-time clocks, and it is simple to break out the GPIO pins to the outside of the case. The system ideally lends itself to becoming a subtle media center or a bright, playful desktop computer, depending on your color choices. All of the standard ports from the Pi are easily accessible on the Pi Nano, and we've used a custom adapter board to convert the HDMI ports to full-sized ones. We've even broken out the audio to a 3.5mm port for use with headphones and external speakers. An internal connector inside the case allows for easy connection of permanent storage, such as memory sticks or even compact SSD drives. A high-powered, illuminated 40mm fan offers ample cooling to the system, with the layered design of the case allowing for venting. Make the most of your Pi and overcome some of the shortfalls of RISC-OS with a different operating system on the same machine. EDOS is our software-based dual boot system to enable RISC-OS and Linux on the same system. By using a dedicated Linux application on RISC-OS, the computer will reboot into a full Linux session for the duration of your use. As standard, once you shut down or reboot from Linux, the machine will automatically return to the RISC-OS desktop. There is also a sticky Linux version that will continue to operate in Linux until the user explicitly requests RISC-OS again. We utilize the USB 3 capabilities of Linux and the Pi 4 so that EDOS can access any SSD drive full speed, making Linux feel incredibly fast. By hand-tuning and specially partitioning the drives supplied with RISC-OS, we can create custom Linux installations with a shared partition that is accessible from both RISC-OS and Linux. Sharing files between two operating systems has never been easier. Wireless networking is one of the areas where RISC-OS currently struggles to compete. So RISCOSbits has taken a couple of off-the-shelf devices to convert the Ethernet port for use with wireless networks. What's more, Wispy works with any RISC-OS machine with a working Ethernet port. Compact model, at 44mm squared, whilst Wispy X is 94mm by 44mm. Neither of them are huge, it is fair to say. RISCOSbits has worked hard to convert the manuals for the devices into both English and RISC-OS friendly versions to make setting up the devices under RISC-OS much easier than it would have been. Instructions are even provided to enable configuration by popular smartphones. The Wispy V is our standard, budget model, whilst for those who need extra speed, the Wispy X offers what feels like twice the speed of its little brother. Twice the size, but twice as fast? The Pi Pod gives those users with older hardware an easy way to integrate a modern Pi into their existing setup. Put simply, the Pi Pod is a Pi on a podule. Pi Pod brackets are exclusively made for RISCOsbits and can only be purchased directly from us. We have different versions for all models of Pi. There are 3 variants of the Pi Pod. Basic gets you a simple bracket that mounts your Pi into the podule slot. Adapt adds all the necessary adapters you need, plus access to downloadable software. Finally, Ultra gets you the full kit and caboodle, including a Pi and a working SD card with all the software you need. The Pi Pod allows you to run RISC OS 5 alongside older versions in a window. It also allows your RISC PC access to USB keyboards and drives, and automatically creates a shared drive on the 2 systems for file sharing and disk access. Pi Pod brings new life to an aging Acorn and allows the user to dabble in the 32-bit world without losing 26-bit compatibility.